This is a special meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. The purpose of our meeting tonight is strictly to review draft language related to the regulations under the wetlands bylaw that we've been drafting and which, for the moment at least, we'll assume is in reasonable shape. We may want to come back and look at that after we finish drafting regulations, but for the moment, that's our process. And so tonight we'll be focused on draft regulations. I guess roll call is in order. So Ellen,
Here.
Jennifer,
Here.
and I am present. So I guess we can take up the language. Do you think it would be helpful maybe just put it right on the screen?
For the regulations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I can share my screen with the regs that Ethan drafted and sent out the other day. It might be the simplest way to deal with this.
And I think, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, you use Weston as kind of the model regulations.
Yes, they had an outline that was sort of based on the Wetlands Protection Act, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
A few towns will have similar ones.
It's this one that I have on screen, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And Paul, I'm just curious, since we agreed on all the changes for the draft wetlands bylaw, are we comfortable posting that, or we talk about that later after how we feel about the regs?
Why don't we get through the regs if we can tonight?
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to guess it's going to be more language than it is concept at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because we
I
seem to
thought
come to terms with conceptual issues.
I thought we didn't finish reviewing the enforcement section of the bylaw.
I thought we did at the
I thought
last
we
meeting.
did at the last
We
meeting.
went through it and everybody was okay with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought we stopped right before that because I mean I think that's the section that has fines in it, right?
Yeah, it was vague, not vague, but it was a very standard template language. We capture that in the 1223 meeting minutes.
Let me take a look.
Yeah,
I don't remember talking
What are you
about.
seeing on my screen right now?
that's the regulations.
You're seeing regulations. Okay, I can
Yeah,
change that.
but I
I
think
have the bylaw.
yeah, to that end, I think the fines part is one of those things that's like if it's just in my opinion, if it's a showstopper for people, that's, once we sort of explain the bylaw, if it's a showstopper, I would be open to taking that out. I'm more concerned about the protections and the performance standards.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I think, and I looked at, so I think it's Westport. I don't remember. I mean, I can put it up on the screen, but did include it in a presentation for their local bylaw, a survey of kind of what other communities do. And 300 per day per offense is on the high end. And I do worry about that being sort of too high for, let's say, a homeowner first offense.
mhm.
It does
Even
seem
if, yeah.
steep, yes.
I think a lot of places, and I can put something up on the screen here, but a lot of places have graduated fines, or some do
Well,
anyway.
I,
one way to deal with that in here, let me bring up the bylaw first. We'll get through the enforcement question quickly. Um,
to me, it's really for the scofflaws, like for people who don't respond, because I think we don't go out and just find people like we, would typically go and talk and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Can you come talk to the commission?
Yeah, so what we have under enforcement right now is we have the ability to enforce, and any person who violates any provision of this bylaw, regulations hereunder, or permits issued hereunder may be punished by a fine of $300 per day per offense. One way to deal with that is just simply to change that to up to $300 per day, which gives us the discretion to set it at whatever level we think is appropriate. Or no fine.
Yeah, or we could say any person, like something like fines would be reserved, you know, it's a last recourse, that type of thing.
I'm not sure I want to condition our ability to levy fines on
Yeah.
someone having been a scofflaw 6 times beforehand or whatever.
Okay.
Seems like having the language as, I mean, there's two things. One, it's may be punished, and two, it's if we go to and add in the words up.
Yeah.
I just want to track changes is the problem, which I can't see on my screen because this sharing panel is over the top of it. There it goes. Track changes. No, still didn't do it. So that would be my thought and one way of having that flexibility. Now, if you want a more graded, I guess the question is how do you grade it?
Some places do 100 for the first,
100 per day
100 for the first
per offense?
offense, 200 for the second, 300 for the third. One place gives a range 25 to 300 per violation per day. Usually they say per violation per day.
Well, I think that's we're basically saying that we're saying of up to $300 per day per offense. So that would be the same thing. I mean,
You can address that in the regulations by having the fee scale and the regulations.
could do that. That'll take us hours.
Yeah. I-
This at least is enabling right here. Allows us to, one,
mhm.
it may be punished. Two, it's up to $300 per day per offense.
Mhm.
Each day or portion thereof during which violation continues shall constitute a separate offense.
Yeah, I think we can try that out and see what comments we get back about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in the bylaw that we need to deal with? I think we'd already said we can promulgate regulations. There's nothing there. I don't see much else here. One thing we will have to get used to doing is for those people who apply only under the bylaw, because they're not subject to the jurisdiction of DEP under the Wetlands Protection Act, we will have to create a permit as opposed to an OOC, because that's the term we use here. Can look the same as an OOC, I suppose, but that is another difference we'll have eventually. anyway, anything else in the bylaw itself? And I'm going to close this.
Yeah, hit save.
I will do that now. This is 1-07. Okay, it's filed. Let's move on to the regulations. Do you want me to share again? Is that the
Sure.
seems like that's the simplest way to deal with it all. All right. I see that our audience is, no, still here. Okay. They're falling off my screen. Okay. So wetlands purpose.
I thought that was fine. I didn't have
Yeah.
comments. It was pretty consistent with some of the
Yep.
other regulations I looked at.
And
Sudbury.
okay.
Oh, yeah, Ethan, Judy, chime in if you feel strongly about anything. I noticed in the Weston by regulations, they break out and they call that third paragraph interests. I don't know that that's critical.
I think it unlikely. I mean,
Yeah,
it's all part of the purpose.
right.
So
Um,
the jurisdiction, this is pretty much verbatim from the bylaw itself, I think.
yeah. Um, yeah, do we think we're missing any resource areas or we're good? I guess the one thing I was sort of grappling with is under jurisdiction. Do you come out and say, any adjacent upland resource area as defined by the bylaw or the buffer zone as defined by the bylaw? But you also say, and the lands within 100 feet. But I did notice like different towns sort of called out like the buffer zone, you know, separately, and other towns sort of treated it as a component of the resource area.
Well, one way to deal with that would be, or lands within 100 feet of any of the aforesaid resource areas, to be known as the buffer areas.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to call it out as buffer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we should consider that buffer area to be a resource area, and I do think the way it's written, it does. indicate that.
As is right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking for, Eleanor?
Sure. Unless you guys think it's not necessary.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Because they are then collectively the resource areas protected by the bylaw.
Mhm. Okay.
I think that's where that formatting needs to be.
Yeah.
So done.
Okay.
So now we're down to lakes, ponds, and bank. Are we going to number these? I mean,
Eventually, I wouldn't worry about it now.
all right, but I see we numbered down to jurisdiction, then we stopped. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have a title here like standards.
you mean
Like
here?
three, yeah, number 3 standards.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, I'd almost suggest that we'll worry about the numbering later,
Mm-hmm.
because it seems to me that it's the kind of numbering can get rather complex. And I
Mm-hmm.
would suggest we call it performance.
Standards, yeah.
Yeah, of course, I need to look at the spell. Okay. So we're not amending any definitions.
Mm-mm. What does it say? Go back to the 25-foot no disturb for a second.
Do we have a 25-foot no disturb called
Oh.
out here? I don't believe we do yet. I think we take that in here, don't we?
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Under
I'm looking at the
performance
Weston.
standards,
Yeah.
setback. And I suggest a little bit of change there. Any resource area will result in alteration of the resource.
Yep.
So I think the way if Ethan was following the Weston bylaw or regulations, sorry, I'm a little punchy tonight. He had it structured definition, presumption, performance standards, and then the setback. And then, the way they do it is by resource area and then define definition, presumption, performance standards. So it's a little repetitive in that it's, um, repeating some of the same performance standards, but presumably you're aggregating like resource areas together to describe those performance standards.
Okay. I guess my question is that really necessary? Is it really necessary to keep repeating that stuff over and over again?
Ah,
I think the ones that are really repetitive are bordering vegetated wetlands, lakes, ponds, and bank. Those are repetitive.
When
Land
you say
underwater,
repetitive, you mean,
they're basically identical, I think.
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, like can't it just be all instead of lakes and ponds? It should just be like lakes, ponds, bordering vegetated wetlands. You know what I mean? Everything that has that.
Well, we have Lakes Ponds Bank here
Hmm.
right now.
Yeah.
Then we
And
have land under bodies, water bodies and waterways.
What's a
but I do think we decided not to include those.
We're not including,
I don't believe that's yeah, I don't believe that that's
because we're not
in the
changing it
bylaw.
from the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah. And it's not, I'm looking back at our jurisdiction. I do remember having this conversation. Well, it says any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek, the land thereunder. But that's really only for the streams, rivers, brooks, creeks. And I think part
so
of the
we are
rationale
not
was
protecting
not,
the land under water bodies and waterways.
well, I think the idea was we're not adding any protection and therefore don't just make the bylaw longer, um, in a way that doesn't actually do anything.
Is there a situation, and I'm just throwing it out there, and like the and waterways part where something could happen, a dock across, oh, I want a dock across the middle of the lake. Like
Right.
they would come to the commission, right? Under the Wetlands Protection Act, or is there something that it wouldn't come to us?
Um, it would come to you as long as it's touching any of the land under or next to or within 100 feet of the water.
So if somebody wanted to put a floating solar array in the middle of the island, are you saying that wouldn't come to us
Um,
necessarily?
Middle of what island?
Sorry, in the middle of the, I didn't sleep well, in the middle of the lake.
It probably would, especially because something like that would have to be anchored in some way.
So it'd be altering land under.
Well, it seems then that we want to cover land under water bodies.
But the lake, anything on the lake requires, I think it's a federal permit, the 401, because this came up before someone wanted to put a dock in.
Oh, really?
Where it's a great pond, it requires a separate permit.
And Quantapowhat is a great pond.
Correct.
Okay.
So
But
then
it
in
would
your,
also have to come before us because it is a lake, a pond, or a pond.
Right.
okay. So there's no, like, I just was double checking. There's no strange reg that, oh, because you're doing a floating something and it's not connected to a bank, it wouldn't come to the commission.
If it's only floating, I don't know that it would need to, but like Ethan said, if it's anchored, that's different.
It would have to be anchored because otherwise it would
It's
blow all
float away.
over.
Well, then that seems to argue for covering land under water bodies as an element of our jurisdiction.
Yeah, that would be protected under the WPA. I think this section here, it doesn't change anything, but by including it, you're making it jurisdictional to the bylaw. But then you're just stating that there's no changes.
Yeah, it means that in addition to reviewing this under the Wetlands Protection Act, we would also review it under the bylaw, but we would have no additional standards under the bylaw.
Well, the 25-foot standard would apply.
Right, but a water body would also have a bank.
Not if it was only, if a water body would have a bank, but you might not be affecting the bank. The Eleanor's example of something floating. It's only anchored.
I don't necessarily think it's bad to have it. Um, but maybe that's a question for
I don't think it gets in
an
the way of
attorney.
anything to have it in here.
But why add it if it's not really any extra protection? Like Jennifer said, you're lengthening the bylaw and adding the potential for confusion with people, I think.
I think the only thing being changed would be the 25-foot setback,
Right.
just whether or not you want to add that to the resource.
I
Well,
didn't think,
that's essentially the only real significant thing we're doing here with this whole bylaw is codifying our 25-foot policy into the bylaw and taking up protection of elements that don't currently have protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. Is all land under water bodies and waterways protected? And does our 25 feet standard need to be incorporated for that? I guess that's the question I'm asking here.
I think in this case, you wouldn't really need a setback. Kind of like Jennifer said, the bank would cover any setback. Because if you're either in the resource or you're not. So in this case, it's a little redundant, but it's something that you could include just to keep it consistent.
You're
agree with you,
suggesting,
Ethan, but could we
Yeah.
also address it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Paul.
no, that's all right. Go on.
Could we just simply move it up in the jurisdiction section and just say, with the resource areas, including the lands thereunder or something like that? And then we're covered.
You could do that. I think having each resource separate helps group them together, so it makes it more clear what's being regulated. But as
I
far as
think,
protecting it, um, it just comes down to how you want to present the information.
yeah, I think you could add, for example, another bullet at the regulations and just say, this includes the lands under the aforementioned resource areas. I mean, we can think about it. I don't want to stop the
Well, if
parking
you're
lot
going to
that.
do that, I'm not even sure you need a separate bullet. I just put it in that first bullet.
Mm.
Right. I mean, I don't know if putting it in the, if we, um, I think if we just put it in the bullet, we're not necessarily invoking the performance standards of the WPA, but I think part of the question is, do we even need to invoke, and duplicate the performance standards of the WPA for that in this
Well, I
bylaw?
guess my
Well, our objective is not to duplicate the WPA. It's to carve out our own additional jurisdiction, our incremental jurisdiction.
yeah, but at this
WPA is there. We don't have to do anything in this bylaw to address it.
yeah, but at the same time, this past summer, right? I don't know where that legislation was, where they were going to essentially repeal some of the wetlands, or I should override some of the Wetlands Protection Act legislation through a budget override to make it easier to develop closer to wetlands, to put in solar arrays and things like that. So, it might, one line of thinking is to just have something in the bylaw that in the event those protections get relaxed or revoked, we have something to fall back on.
Well, we do right here.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, we're saying we're invoking 100-foot buffer area on any wetland, etc. We're invoking vernal pool habitat, which I hope, define below, as I recall. And we say for any perennial stream, brook, adjoining lands out to 200 feet, known as riverfront area.
Right. But if the state comes in and says, or whatever, we want everybody to put solar arrays in the middle of their lakes.
Right, but they could
This-
also
this-
include a section that overrides the local bylaws, similar to 40B.
Mm,
If their intent is to increase housing stock and relax rules, then I would think that would be part of it.
yeah.
We do need
Okay.
to tidy up some language here, though.
I guess I have a couple more questions about this. I do think that's a good rationale for including it, the fact that parts of it may be, the WPA might be relaxed. But I'm also wondering about, well, so a setback on land under water body, that setback would be relative to what delineation? That would
Oh,
be,
I think it wouldn't, in my mind, the land underwater, it wouldn't be subject to a setback, but it would be subject to protections for the additional interests, recreation,
okay.
wildlife protection, habitat protection, right? Because those are the things like somebody putting, a huge floating dock or
Right.
solar
Yeah.
arrays, like that's what it's likely to disrupt. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
setback required. It's protecting
Right.
the additional interests.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's another good reason to include it. Right, and like dredging might apply to land underwater bodies, certain utilities. Um,
Yeah. So I guess I'd suggest we leave the land underwater bodies in the document then.
Okay. I mean, maybe there's a more efficient way to include it, but yeah.
Well, and let's get through it first, and then we can worry about the efficiency. I did notice, though, as I reread this jurisdiction paragraph, it bumped me before, and I went back. We have two different thoughts going on. We first start off with the wetland resource areas protected under the bylaw, and these regulations include, and then we have the three bullets, collectively the resource areas protected by this bylaw. Then we go into a different thought, which is without, and it's like we took some pieces from the bylaw and didn't finish taking all the sentence. So it should be no person shall alter or modify any resource area protected by this bylaw without filing, and then go on. Any concerns there?
mm-mm.
All right. We've got performance standards. We're into lakes, ponds, and banks. We had small alterations there. I don't know if anyone else has other concerns with the performance standards on lakes, ponds, and banks.
Let me see.
Yeah, for the presumption, I think there's some language there under the presumption, but I thought some alternative language, you know, in addition to the values recognized under the WPA, lakes, ponds, and bank may be significant to water quality, sedimentation, and erosion control, recreation, and rare species habitat. So that's extending. Well, I think the current language basically says all of the interests in section 1 may apply. But I think what I just suggested directs people to the WPA preambles, and then adds those interests.
Can you?
We have the resource areas of interest protected by the bylaw include and not limited to water supply, groundwater, flood control, storm damage, prevention of pollution. What do you want to add there, Jennifer? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, what I was suggesting was using this section to essentially refer people to the WPA for the significance, what the narrative that's written under the preambles, which is more descriptive. And then also kind of making note, because the WPA preambles don't include the 4 new interests that we add. And then saying, at least for this type of resource area, saying it may also be significant too, and then our 4 new interests.
Could I ask that you draft up what you want to put in here?
Yeah, I have
You wanna
that. I
put
can
it?
go ahead and if I can put in the chat, I'll drop it in the chat. Or I can put it up on my screen or send it in an email.
All right.
Do we have
I'm
the
not sure I see an addition here I'm not sure whether I understand what you want to add, and then I need to understand whether I feel we need it.
Yeah, I mean, I could share my screen. I don't think we have a chat to drop it into.
Yeah, is there a way to turn on a chat function, Judy? Or
It's supposed to turn on automatically.
Let me stop sharing and see if that brings it up.
I don't see that, but I can.
Notes.
mm-hmm.
Maybe you can drop it into notes. That's about the
Notes.
only place.
Oh,
I'm surprised there is no chat.
let the
Notes
note.
wants me
Oh,
to
but then you have to
sign in.
sign in. That's weird.
I'll just share my screen here.
Go ahead.
So this is the sentence I was suggesting instead of the existing language. In addition to the values recognized under the WPA, lakes, ponds, and banks may be significant too, and these are our new interests: water quality, sedimentation and erosion control, recreation, rare species habitat. Because the WPA does get more specific than just saying, all of these interests apply to every resource area. So, I think I'd rather see applicants refer to the WPA or their kind of, sort of initial introduction to the interests, and then add, and our new interests may apply as well.
Okay, well, I can't copy that right now, so.
Okay. I can put this,
I
I
just
can
typed
drop
it
that
in
into an email. Okay.
on my copy, whatever.
I mean, do you want me to put it into an email?
Problem we have is we need one scribe here tonight.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, honestly, but we need one consistent set here that we're going to deal with.
Do you want to just type that in on your version and then you can start sharing again? It's just one sentence. We can
Yeah.
dictate it to you.
Yeah, you're going to have to do it that way because I'm not going to be able to remember it all.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So if
Hold on. Unfortunately, you can get there. And what section is that flowing in?
That's
the lakes.
under, lakes, ponds, and bank presumption.
So it's a presumption. In addition to the values recognized under the WPA.
Lakes, ponds.
Hold on. We've already got the commission shall presume that the protection of lakes, ponds, and bank resource areas is significant to protection of wetland values recognized under section 1 of the bylaw and section 1 of these regulations. Are we going to add this beyond that then?
I was suggesting this in place of.
Let me
But
put it
don't,
in to the,
uh,
all right, I've got it in there.
okay. We can always reflect.
I've got both of them in there right now under
Yeah.
presumption, both the original one and then this. So I'm going to suggest we leave it that way, review it and decide.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then, so we're into the performance standards next. Shall I bring it back up?
Mhm.
Do that. Okay, so we're into land under again. Well, but we're actually still performance standards related to lakes, ponds, and banks. The 25-foot standard here.
Mhm.
Essentially, we repeat that throughout.
Uh, so I don't know that land under bodies and waterways would have a setback. I don't know. Let me just the 25-foot no disturb, I guess.
I don't think you would ever encounter a setback with that resource.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm
Without a
just,
resource, did you say, Ethan?
So with the land underwater, I don't think you'll never find a chance where there's a setback being affected by it.
yeah. It is funny though. I'm looking at the Weston regulations and they have under the performance standards a 25-foot no disturb for lands under bodies and waterways. Hmm.
Well, I mean, the reason you won't have a setback, a separate setback for that is because they're going to have either a bank
Right,
or it's going to be a water body or wetland, right?
right.
Yeah, you're either in the land underwater or you're in the setback of the bank.
Right.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so you almost
There
don't.
a reason to even bother with land underwater bodies and waterways then?
That's why I was thinking you kind of just leave it up in the jurisdiction section. You know what I mean?
So you only,
If it's in the jurisdiction section, I think you would still have to call out the performance standards.
we don't actually call out land under here.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I was saying suggesting, including land under the aforementioned resource areas. We can come back to that. I don't want to, we can think about it.
Is this what's showing on your screen right now where I'm editing?
Yeah. But it would be the same thing for all the resource areas. So,
Yeah,
it'd almost be its own bullet. I mean, we can just leave it as an open question on jurisdiction.
I think this should be a separate bullet, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Just at the end, just this includes land under the aforementioned resource areas.
Okay. All right. Moving on down to water bodies and waterways. Are we done with that one?
Yeah, I
And
think I
under?
would just leave a note if we want to remove, leave it as is or whatever. We can keep going. Let's move on to the others.
Bordering vegetated wetlands is next.
This is the one where all of the language is essentially identical to lakes, ponds, and bank.
They all are pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you could almost just take all of those resource areas and do lakes, ponds, banks, bordering land, subject to flooding, and
Yeah.
just have one set, you know? That would definitely make the regulation seem less scary.
And I think here we probably should be capitalizing bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I see your point. I mean, we don't really need to call each one of these out individually if we're basically saying the same thing over and over and over.
Mhm.
among other things, we'll miss something in one of them that should be in all of them. Although the easy way to deal with that is just simply copy and paste.
Mm.
This is the same performance standard language we want all throughout, or do we have something different we want to see somewhere?
So for isolated wetlands,
That's one where we're creating jurisdiction.
yeah.
Yeah, I think isolated wetlands and intermittent streams should have their own sections because we can include more information about the values, like a preamble, which
Mhm.
I did copy some other like towns preamble. I think I'll just send my document with edits to to everyone.
Mhm.
So you can see that language. But I think for that reason, those two should have their own sections.
Isolate and intermittent streams. Okay.
Yeah, isolated wetlands, intermittent streams.
Yeah,
And
I had
vernal pool habitat.
mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Those three are,
yes, like I had suggested edits on the if we want to peek at the isolated wetlands section.
right there.
Yeah, I had suggested minor edits, adding a sentence after the first sentence, after the definition, and it was something I pulled off of a Mac template.
Okay, what does it say?
It says, so it would read, the term isolated wetlands is a freshwater wetland that is not protected under 310 CMR due to being isolated or disconnected from a body. This is the section. Isolated wetlands provide important habitat for plants and wildlife, as well as key water storage and water quality services. That would be my edit, and then it continues, such a wetland will be protected under the bylaw. So it's just a one sentence.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if that should be in the definition or if that should be down in presumption, Eleanor, your sentence.
Oh, good point.
Because it's really not part of the definition. You're describing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You're right. Good point.
It would make sense to put it as the second sentence in that presumption section there, though.
Okay. Do you want me to read it to you? And then if
Yeah,
Jennifer
why don't you
probably
read
had
it to
more.
me and I'll type it right in.
Yeah, and then maybe make a note to incorporate, we can incorporate Jennifer's edits.
Yeah, so read me yours.
Isolated wetlands provide important habitat for plants and wildlife, as well as key water storage and water quality services.
Habitat for
Plants and wildlife, as well as key water storage and water quality services.
water storage and
Water quality services. And actually, now that I'm thinking about if this becomes isolated wetlands and intermittent streams, we could beef that up, like to Jennifer's point, to include the two. You have the language for that, right, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay.
you want to consolidate those two? Is that what you're suggesting here?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about consolidating.
I mean,
Oh,
they're different things, really.
okay. Okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted. All right.
Could I suggest changing key to critical?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right.
And that could probably be expanded. I just wanted to, I
No,
just, yeah.
I don't think we need to add words just for the sake of adding words. We should, is there an additional functionality we want to put in here?
Hmm.
I think a reason to have an expanded section for isolated wetlands is that that is the most varied type of resource in terms of the interests that it does serve. Um, and especially if we're calling it a presumption, I don't know if we want to necessarily presume that a particular isolated wetland does serve all of those values and interests. Um, I think that would be case by case.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we don't have to narrow it down in here. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that an isolated wetland doesn't serve A and B, but serves C through F.
Well, so, I mean, currently the way it's written, it says basically there's a presumption that the isolated wetland is significant to the values in section one, but that includes like fisheries, and like an isolated wetland could be a vernal pool. We know that's
Right.
not true.
Yep.
A-
Well,
And that's part of why I suggested that other language that refers specifically to the preambles and for the other ones in the WPA.
okay. I mean, an isolated wetland could serve to provide fisheries habitat in terms of providing habitat for um, something that, a particular insect that is a key food source for fish within another body of water. I'm not sure I want to carve things away, is all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about putting forward a presumption that I think would be also provide like a grounds for a challenge, or an appeal.
But I mean, the language here right now, we're not narrowing it, but we're not saying all wetland values recognized under section one of the bylaw and section one of these regulations. We're simply saying that it is significant to the protection of wetland values recognized under those two sections. I don't think which values is it? I mean, each of us probably could go through the values and pick out some that we don't think belong there, and others of us might disagree with that. Do you want to narrow it down right here, Jennifer?
I mean, I'm in favor of a more narrow um, presumption, or a more
Want
fleshed
to
out.
say there?
I sent a few minutes ago um, a draft with some language highlighted in there. Um, that's from, I think, Sudbury. Um, that basically says, different isolated wetlands will um, protect different values.
I guess my thought about that, I mean, it's sort of it feels like a discussion point, not something you necessarily need in a regulation. I mean, I don't know. Can you guys see that right now or no? What are you still seeing? You're just seeing my version of the regs?
Mhm. But I mean, I have it up on my screen.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you, I don't think what she's shared is bad. I think uh,
It doesn't feel like something that fits in a regulation. It feels more like background for discussion around while you're developing a regulation rather than something you put into a regulation. I guess that's the way I'm reading it.
I mean, it kind of mirrors the Wetlands Protection Act, how each resource area starts out with a preamble um, about what values are significant to each resource area. So it kind of, yeah, follows that pattern. I mean, we can leave it in very broadly, but I do just worry about that being
sh
not only a potential vulnerability for an appeal, but also just not really educational to a, like, let's say a single, a homeowner who doesn't understand why a isolated wetland matters or what they should be paying attention to as they're designing their project.
Yeah, I mean, when I read this is not specific. It says it could be this, it could be that. Minimal adjacent upland resource restrictions within several feet of the resource might be necessary only to prevent erosion. Um, you know, okay, but is that really what we're supposed to be putting in regulations? I mean, developing regulations is essentially, here's our law. Now, this is what you have to do to live up to the law. And this language here is kind of more, well, look at all of this stuff, think about it, and then we'll talk about what we might actually want to do. This doesn't feel like, to me, it does not feel like regulatory language so much as discussion language to be considered in developing a regulation.
did you Paul see the I guess edits she was suggesting under isolated wetlands?
Yeah, that's what I've got on my screen. Let me
Oh, I guess I can't see it.
let me
Are you?
close my share and bring it back.
Oh, okay.
Stop share and then bring back.
Okay.
Where is it? There it is. I'm going to share again. This one.
Yeah.
I mean, what this feels like to me is more of a background discussion than a very specific regulation.
I guess the other way you could approach that concern is put in the regulations something like in evaluating the um, significance or the values of the, isolated wetlands, the commission will look at the following factors,
Well,
something
I
like
mean, you
that.
could say that about any one of the resource areas we're thinking about.
Right.
I mean, it isn't just isolated wetlands.
But it gives you the room to apply judgment.
Well, we could
Um,
put that up, if you're going to do that, I'd suggest we put that up in the front end of our regulations.
mm,
I don't think it's appropriate in any one specific neighborhood here.
mhm.
Um, because it isn't, it feels like a philosophical, think about this, folks,
Mhm.
rather than thou shalt, which is what I think we're trying to write here,
Mhm.
or thou shalt not.
Well, I mean, I don't want
And
it to be
that's I
something
guess
that
my thinking
holds.
about. Go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry.
I mean, I don't want it to be something that holds everything up or like a hill that I particularly want to die on. But I mean, I think it's the reality of what we will do in the meeting is we will be assessing what values are, what interests are at stake for this particular like project that we're reviewing.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I think if we're going to use the word presumption, we need to soften that and say may or, some of, some or all of the values and or interest in section one.
Well, I
Yeah.
could see down in presumption, which is at the top of the next page, protection of some or all of the wetland values recognized under. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to do that if we're going to use that word presumption.
We probably need to go back and do it in every section then.
Some or all. Okay. Mm. Okay. Should we go to the next section, like intermittent streams?
Seems like that's next up. Yeah. All right. So I've incorporated some or all here. You're seeing that, right?
Um,
Not on your draft. We're still seeing Jennifer's draft, but
All
if
right.
if you have it, it's okay because maybe Jennifer has more edits that we should look at.
I think Jennifer does have more edits.
Okay.
All right. Why do I
That's
mean,
okay. I think you can,
there it goes.
yeah, we can go
No,
through.
you know what it is Jennifer's edits. I brought them up on my screen share. That's the problem here. I have to look at what I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, but
So,
that's okay because you can make, I mean, those edits are so minimal. You can make them and we can kind of look at Jennifer's other edits.
okay, so that's isolated wetlands. Um, I guess my question is, okay, this is the first of several rather lengthy. Well, no, I guess it's just these two, isolated wetlands and intermittent streams.
I mean, we define like the isolated wetland, so it's not like just
Right.
a sagging parking lot. Like, Um,
Okay, I'm still questioning whether this significance is appropriate.
I I think we can think about it and just go and look at other bylaws and kind of come back to it. I think it's
All
a
right.
valid concern.
Yeah, because I can't edit this because I've just opened it from the email.
Yeah.
That's the problem here.
Yeah, I mean, you can close that out. The other major change in my edits was a similar section for intermittent streams.
I
And
see it
then that
here.
one highlighted section delineation under intermittent streams, which is just a sentence.
Okay, well, let's look at what you have on significance.
Okay. And this came from Sudbury?
Yeah, this is from Sudbury.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would, well,
I almost feel like it, I think it's good. Um, I think it's something that definitely should be included in um, the information of why we're protecting these things, like a presentation.
I would agree. I'm
Um,
not sure it belongs in the regulations.
I think there are two schools of thought on that, but yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it is a justification for the regulation, but it is not, it is not language that regulates.
right, but so I guess another consideration is for the Conservation Commission members themselves. So when I'm reading the WPA in relation to a project, and I'm not a wetland scientist myself, I find the preamble helpful for, for me as a commission member to know what I need to be considering as I'm, you know, looking at the project in relation to the WPA. Because otherwise, I mean, if it weren't in the WPA, where would I get that information from? As my jumping off point.
I don't think it's necessarily bad, Paul, because, sometimes the regulations kind of come across as, when we're talking about these things, as a little capricious. You know what I mean? Like we just talk about them in such a disconnected way. Um, how far back from the resource area, we're not really talking about why we care about these things. And so, you know, maybe it is helpful to explain it in kind of plain language like this.
Well, I'm looking at the Wetlands Protection Act 310 CMR, which is a regulation. It starts off with introduction and purpose, and then a statement of jurisdiction. But then it's all very focused on what you may or may not do. I We could enter it in as a commentary or something like that, but I just have my doubts about putting it in. It's not regulatory language. It's not requiring someone to do something or not do anything, not do something. It is purely it is much more a statement of this is what we're thinking about. It's a statement around significance and value, and I agree with that. But I'm not sure that's seems like that would be more appropriate in purpose, not in standards, performance standards. I guess that's where I am with it.
I, sorry, I'm just Googling this. Uh, why would benefit to include detailed significance of the resource area? Um, it helps provide clear standards. Like having detailed significance helps the commission define clear standards. It also clarifies why certain activities would be more restricted than others. Um, um, it provides clear legal grounds for conservation commissions to deny harmful projects. And helps meet state requirements for legally defensible bylaws by defining. So this kind of talk by defining the performance standards. But I mean, that's more about the performance standards than the significance. Jennifer, do you recall if the MAC template or anything from them talks about that? Or
Not off the top of my head, but I can pull it up.
Mm.
Mhm. I mean, maybe instead of significance, like preamble, like we'll
Yeah.
talk about some stuff, and then get into the.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Judy, Ethan, do you have thoughts on?
Oh, I'm still thinking on it. I think there's really no wrong direction to go with this. But yeah, I don't have an exact answer on this one.
Yeah.
I think it's fine, but I think could be tapered down. I don't know how beneficial it will be. I mean, there aren't that many filings that come to the commission that are directly from the homeowner. So I don't know how deep a homeowner is going to get into what do I need for the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would generally have an expert, whether it's a
Yeah.
wetland person or.
Yeah, this feels like educational material to me,
Yeah, I think it's
not
good
regulatory
education, but
material.
yeah, I don't know how much value it would bring to the bylaw itself.
What about as a guide for a commissioner? Especially
Put it in
someone
a
who's
guide
not.
then.
Yeah, I think for education value, certainly, but I don't know that it would be beneficial in the bylaw.
I think we could incorporate some of these points and make it sort of brief. And certainly down the road when we, beef up our website or our resources, these sort of expanded significance definitions, I think would be really helpful for homeowners to like understand why we're protecting these things.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a project to kind of pare this back.
But I mean, it's definitely good information.
Yes, it's good information, but it's not a regulation. I guess
I
that's
did
what I keep coming back to.
I did like the delineation part.
Where?
Uh, that's highlighted.
Oh, down below.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I no disagreement there. That makes sense to put in.
And I think that was my last edit to
Yeah.
the regs.
I had suggested an edit under presumptions from the MAC template, which was intermittent streams that are upgradient of bordering vegetated wetlands, provide important carbon and nutrient cycling functions, habitat for plants and wildlife, storage and infiltration capacity, carbon cycling, and provide a buffer to protect adjoining land uses from flood and storm events.
I think that falls under what Paul's talking about. It's good educational value, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that's going to add much to the bylaw.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that people are going to look at it and say, oh yeah, that I should really be more cognizant of that
Yeah.
when when I'm designing a project, I should scale it back because of that. I don't think the two are going to connect.
Okay. Okay. And then it's essentially the same performance standard.
This is under which one? Intermittent streams, Eleanor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just finishing dropping in delineation.
Okay.
All right, gonna have to come back to it. All right, so intermittent streams. What are we see? What are you guys seeing on the screen right now for me?
That's
And
still
you
my
still have
copy.
what you had, Jennifer, what you sent
Yeah.
over?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I guess, where do we want to be? We want to deal with intermittent streams. Let's get
I
to
think
the
we just
draft.
did.
Huh?
I think we just dealt with intermittent streams.
Okay,
Again, unless there's a different performance standards, it sounds like we have the same 25-foot setback and it reads identical to all the others.
right. I'll share the regulations again then. And Eleanor, I'd ask if I missed something while I was doing my editing on intermittent stream, can you give me back what you wanted to add here?
Uh,
Was it here?
um, I think I just had the Mac template that was intermittent streams that are up gradient, but we don't need to, in- you know, include that. It was more along the lines of educational, I guess. And it would be a presumption, I guess, under the presumption.
Okay. I mean, the definition as we have it here makes no distinction between up gradient and down gradient.
Okay, so I think that's fine.
Intermittent stream is any body of water, brooks and creeks which moves in a definite channel to a ground in the ground due to hydraulic gradient into or out of an area subject to protection under this
I
bylaw.
mean, I think then you could just say intermittent streams provide important carbon and nutrient cycling functions, habitat for plants and wildlife, storage and infiltration capacity, carbon cycling, and provide a buffer to
I
protect
would
adjoining.
put that under
Yeah,
presumption.
yeah. I
That
mean,
isn't part of the definition. It is part of a presumption.
a presumption, yeah.
Why don't you read it back to me?
Uh, intermittent streams
Provide.
provide important carbon and nutrient cycling functions, comma, habitat for plants and wildlife, comma, storage. Oh,
So important carbon nutrient cycling functions, comma,
habitat for plants
habitat. That was the next one. And
and
animals
and wildlife,
and wildlife.
comma, storage and infiltration capacity, comma, and provide a buffer to protect adjoining land uses from flood and storm events.
Okay. Because that's part of the presumptions.
Yeah, I think it's sort of I don't know, addressing some of what Jennifer's doing or was proposing that we
Yeah. Okay.
and then I mean and then you could say no, you can't fill that because you're gonna impact, you're gonna create more flooding or whatever because we've called it out.
Okay.
Uh,
Performance standards look more or less the same, except this is again of the bylaw.
then vernal pool habitat.
Guess I'm not sure I quite understand this phrase scientific delineations here. What is that?
Oh, scientific definitions.
Oh, definitions. I'm sorry, that's the
I've-
problem. I was misreading.
Uh, how about
Okay. I don't think there's anything problematic in this language.
no, I wanted to see if Jennifer had proposed something in the presumption.
No, not for vernal pools.
I don't see any changes in yours.
Okay.
Then we have presumption of vernal pool habitat, guidelines for determining.
Mhm. I mean, it kind of repeats what's already in the bylaw.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, just see what Weston has.
Okay, so we still need to come up with performance standards for vernal pools. Do our friends in Weston have any?
Yeah, they have a 25-foot no disturb.
On top from what?
From the vernal pool, which isn't much protection at all.
No.
That's in Weston. Um, where do we see a good one? Just open up Sudbury.
Well, I guess I'd suggest for performance standards, I'm thinking of just stealing the language from intermittent streams, bringing it down here, and then we can mess with it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that language that we talked about, I think in the last meeting, that's in the bylaw. I mean, that seems like what our performance standard is. You know, the commission may require that the applicant maintain a strip of continuous, you know, that section.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like our standard.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also add like to maintain shading around the vernal pool, like,
Well, I mean, our first question under performance standards for vernal pools, are we actually adding a 25-foot buffer beyond the resource area?
no.
Because we've taken 100-foot, so we need to clean that up here.
Yeah.
That work within vernal pool habitat
Yeah. Will result in alteration of a resource.
will result in alteration of such a resource. Okay.
Mm.
Is there anything additional you want to put in under for vernal pools here? This would be the performance standard, so we can strike this.
Mm-hmm.
What we put in the bylaw was that the commission may require the applicant to maintain a strip of continuous undisturbed vegetation. Okay, for part or all of the 100-foot upland area, unless the applicant provides evidence to the commission that the area may be disturbed without harm to the values.
That seems appropriate to put here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
I think that's good.
that's in the bylaw section 7, letter I.
Okay, I'm copying that sentence. Let's see where we want it. This is where we're working right now, right? Oh, damn, I can't do that.
Don't worry about sharing. I mean, you could just
Yeah, all
copy.
right, I'm going to stop sharing because I've got to go in there and, well, part of the problem is I didn't download this. go.
All right.
This is performance standards on, do we want to put that in performance standards under vernal pools, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think we should to let people know they have to make it clear they may have to do more than just protect 25 feet.
Okay. So, I'm going to reshare for a moment. Just so this is what we have now for performance standards. We have the presumption, alteration, clear showing, may require, and then this sentence you highlighted, the applicant maintain a strip of continuous undisturbed vegetative cover, and all are part of the 100-foot upland. Can I make a suggestion here?
Mhm.
Do that. That get us where we want to be for vernal pool performance standards.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And there is no setback from vernal pool habitat.
We also talked about whether to use that fence, to specifically prohibit fences that block wildlife movement. Let me see if I can find, I got that from somewhere.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Jennifer. It probably makes sense to put it here, provided that it's maybe one way to do it would be no applicant shall install fencing within vernal pool habitat that restricts the movement of wildlife, including um,
Maybe,
amphibians and small amphibians and reptiles, as well as larger animals. I mean, that's what you're trying to get at, right?
yeah, the really vernal pool specific
Yeah, yeah.
species.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Want to just add, should we just add that as another sentence here?
Yeah, I think so. So I got that from Sudbury. They have one sentence. The commission shall prohibit the placement of fences or other barriers to wildlife movement within and between resource areas and the destruction of specific habitat features.
How about
Ooh.
just simply saying the placement? How's that? There's nothing more about the commission. It's just simply it's there. That's prohibited.
No.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We have riverfront, then we have waiver and enforcement. We might actually get through one round tonight if we're willing to stay on for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Riverfront.
Yep.
Riverfront is 200 feet, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that called out somewhere else in here? Do you mind if I spin back up to look?
Oh, it is in jurisdiction.
Mhm.
It is. Okay, then I'm fine.
Mhm. The waiver is identical, I think, to the bylaw language.
Yeah, I just changed this bylaw to be these regulations.
Ah, okay.
I would add something here, I think. Let me just put it in and you tell me whether you think we need it or not. Okay. That's what I'm suggesting we add. In other words, tell us what you want waived. You can't just say, I want a waiver of the whole
Yeah.
thing. You have to identify the specific sections of the bylaw or regulation from which you're requesting a waiver, along with a written justification of why the waiver is desired or needed.
I think that's good.
Okay?
It,
Mhm.
we should probably copy that language or that phrase over to the bylaw itself.
Okay. Okay, I dropped it into my copy of the bylaw. Now, where are we? This is where we are. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
I did have a thought about the enforcement section.
mhm.
And it might be easiest for me if I could share something on the screen. This is from
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
Andover's bylaw.
I'll stop sharing
Okay. Okay. This is
while we're,
from Andover's bylaw enforcement section. they have a couple of sentences. An enforcement order shall be signed by a majority of the Conservation Commission in a situation requiring immediate action. Enforcement order may be signed by a single member or agent. If said order is ratified by a majority of the members. And, I think this had me thinking about who can, in an enforcement situation, who can do what. And partly I was thinking about that because of just all of the recent things with the town and reporting questions,
That
so,
makes sense, Jennifer.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's,
I like that.
I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure an enforcement order, who delivers that? I mean, is that the police or,
The enforcement order is by the agent. This is
mhm,
pretty much the language that's in the act, the process now for an enforcement order.
mhm.
The agent can either issue it if it's emergent or bring it to the meeting, but it has to be ratified by the commission
Mhm.
at the next meeting.
I think there's
Right.
also something else that's more like I forget what it's called, like a warning.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, no, this isn't the first level of, you would go out and talk to them, and then if it still persists, then send a letter. There are several steps before the enforcement order.
right. But I think, just for example, like it's a warning. Ooh, I don't like what I think any commissioner or the agent could come upon a project and say, ooh, I don't think you're doing that right. Can you stop activity and come talk to us? What is that? There's a form for that, Judy. Do you know what it's called? It's like s-
I mean, I've never seen it where it's a commissioner that would issue that,
um,
generally done through the agent.
okay. I think I've
They have what's called a
seen,
violation notice, you might be thinking of.
yes, exactly. Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think technically a commissioner could serve that too. Am I right or no?
I don't know. I didn't think that was the case.
Okay.
Probably the commission, not just like a commissioner, but the commission could do that.
Go back and check that. I think one can do that and then it's a similar, like it has to be.
But you can't act on behalf of the commission without the commission's permission.
he can
I think
act
as long
on
as
our
it's
behalf
voting
if
at,
we ratify it later. That's the only
I don't think that's how that works, though.
No?
I,
The
I,
enforcement order, that's how it works, but I don't think a commissioner on their own can go out and issue a directive and then go back to the commission for permission. I don't think that's the process. I don't think you can act on something as an individual without getting approval by the commission.
I,
This language here that Jennifer's showing us seems to be saying that you can.
But that's
yeah.
an enforcement order,
Yeah, okay.
not
But
just going out.
but I think the other, if you can do this, you can. I thought I looked into this and I'll look at it again. And I think in some towns they do that as long as, because it's really like it's like a
Maybe under a
soft.
bylaw, but that gets into a slippery slope of, you could have someone who wants to assess this to every, small violation they see. I think that's the danger of that.
I think the violation notice, I understood it was, we're not sure, like this is an enforcement issue yet, but we want you to come talk to us about the work you're doing and
Right,
make
Yeah,
but I
sure.
more
think,
of a request rather than an order.
Yes. And I think,
It's like sending a letter. Like
yeah,
one member
right,
could do that, but usually it just comes from the commission or the
right,
agent.
because it can be subjective. I
yeah.
mean, that's why I think it gets into a tricky area. I think it's something that should be discussed with the commission if it's rather than just a single
Yeah.
commissioner.
what's the term for that? A violation?
Notice.
Violation notice.
Okay, violation
And
notice.
there's a form, I think in some towns, the commissioners have them in their glove box or whatever.
And I guess, I mean, a similar question, I think would come up about fines, right? Or this is the framework for fines, like deciding on a fine requires the commission to vote. On the fine.
Yeah. Um, uh, yeah, so I'm just looking to determine authority to issue notices. They're typically issued by the conservation agent if authorized by the commission to vote, or regulation, the commission chair acting on behalf of the commission, the full commission by vote at a meeting, not required for initial notice, but common. A single commissioner should not issue enforcement unilaterally unless explicitly authorized. But I think it really depends on the town, I guess. Because some towns have no staff, right? So who's going to issue enforcement orders? It would be like commissioners. I mean, violation notices.
But you'd have to be sure that there was a violation.
Yeah, and you'd have them come and talk to the commission. Yeah.
Right. But it couldn't be, I think there's a violation. You'd have to be pretty sure there was a violation.
Yeah.
Um, seems to me that in that enforcement section, what we want is some language that requires the commission to vote on a particular enforcement action.
You mean to ratify it? Or to vote before one's issued?
Either. I mean, Jennifer, could you close your share so I can bring mine up? I just played with it a little bit here. It's, where the hell is it now? No. Sorry.
Mhm.
It is that. All right. It's this. Okay, this is actually regulation, not bylaw. So we've got an enforcement order shall be signed by a majority of the members of the commission, which is what you showed us, Jennifer, in a situation requiring immediate action and enforcement order, not and enforcement order, sorry. May be signed by a single member of the commission or the conservation agent if said order is ratified by a majority vote of the commission members at the next scheduled meeting of the commission. Okay, and then I think the next thing is any person who violates may be ordered to restore. Well, who does that? Well, the commission needs to do this too. So the commission may enforce this bylaw and the bylaw and these regulations right? Aren't we saying the commission has to take action here as well?
Why not just after maybe ordered, put by the commission?
Do that. I'm gonna fix. Again, I want a specific, how does that action get the commission is the entity which authorizes the fines. Can we actually authorize fines without then having town board take that action, or do we need town board to ratify it? Town council? Does anybody know?
I think we give ourselves the authority to
Issue
assess
fines?
fines. Yeah.
Okay,
And we may decide at the end, it's a showstopper for people and we pull the whole thing out, but
okay. All right, so that's what I would suggest an editing of the whole enforcement section look like.
Okay.
When it says in the previous paragraph, about an order being ratified by a majority of the commission, does that mean the next time the commission meets, they vote to essentially approve this action that was already done?
Yes, that's what the
Okay.
last clause says. If said
Yeah.
order is ratified by a majority
Okay,
of
the
the
majority
commission
vote,
members
okay.
at the next
Yeah.
scheduled meeting.
I mean, in practical terms, wouldn't that, I mean, that would seem to, I mean, to even be sure that it would be ratified in the next meeting, you'd almost have to like ask. But like over email, but
Yeah,
that's,
I would think that's, I
but
don't
then
think
that's,
any of us would ever take some kind of action under this clause absent consultation with our colleagues. I
Yeah.
certainly,
but then that's OML, then there's OML.
sorry?
There's also OML, and
Yeah,
would OML prevent us from being able to do that?
well,
I mean,
we could
I guess
have
it,
individual conversation. I mean, right now we're in a peculiar situation with only three of us. Any two of us could comprise a quorum, and therefore we can't even talk.
exactly.
Well, and I think the reality is, if something happened, you know, there'd be some sort of complaint. We talk to Ethan, you'd probably want to, like, it's the last step, the enforcement order. So, typically reaching out to the applicant and saying, can you please come talk to us? Can we come to an arrangement or accommodation? Then, if something else is happening, maybe it's a violation notice, like, I don't know, an errant landscaper has gone in and, mowed behind all the fencing or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, like that would be a clear violation of an order of conditions. Um, but then I, I think then does it get to an enforcement? Like there would be a conversation. So I can't imagine there would be like, I don't know, Judy, can you think of like an emergency enforcement situation? I mean, if somebody were like dumping tar into the lake or something.
The only thing I could
Yeah,
see
well,
is if you wanted them to stop what they were doing.
Mhm.
until they came in to talk to the commission. And that, I mean, I think these should be issued by the agent. I don't think it should be a single member of the commission,
Mhm.
because I think you're just gonna run into problems with that. And I think it would be having someone stop and then come in and then the commission makes a determination. I think
Right.
that's the most reasonable, if it's something egregious. Otherwise, like you said, there are plenty of steps before that that generally, takes care of the problem.
You know, I think, Judy, I would want, I don't disagree that a single member of the commission acting alone might be potentially problematic. On the other hand,
I
same thing
don't see
you
an
said
instance where it
with
would
the
be needed.
agent, I think maybe signed by a single member of the commission and the conservation agent.
But it wouldn't need to be signed by both people, though. The agent
Right.
could sign it, just as they can sign it under the Wetlands Protection Act.
They
They
can,
sign it,
under
yeah, they
under
sign it, then it gets
WPA?
ratified at the next meeting.
Okay,
It always has to be ratified.
right.
I think the open meeting law even allows for emergency meetings even under 48 hours.
Hmm.
Right, but what situation would there be where it would be that emergent that, I mean, if the person is told to stop until the next meeting, I think
Well,
that generally, I mean, in my experience, in the amount of time I've been around the commission, there really hasn't been a situation where it's been something that was, I mean, if it's an oil spill, it's taken care of right away anyways. There's a different mechanism for that.
yeah. Well, let's say the Vokes, kind of clear cutting their trees around the wetlands. Um,
Right, and then you'd issue an enforcement order that would be a cease and desist, basically.
yeah,
On
and
the
You
that
spot.
don't
that
do any work until you come to the next meeting to talk about it.
yeah, that would be an emergency one because you're telling them stop right now. Whereas a non-emergency one is you wait, you discuss it at the next meeting, and then
I
you
think it's
issue.
the same. I don't think there's a distinction between the two. In either way, it's going to come to the next meeting to be discussed.
But wouldn't we have to kind of, I guess the chair sets the agenda, or I guess any one commission member could say, please put this on the agenda. But if someone was doing something we were very worried about, wouldn't we want to get them in as soon as possible? But that could be up to 2 weeks later, which is
Right,
2 weeks.
but that's why under the enforcement order, you would issue where you would say you cannot perform any additional work.
Okay.
That's how it, I mean, I don't,
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I thought the violation notice was that, like you can't perform any additional work until you come talk to us.
yeah,
I'm
it
not
can be
sure
that
there's a
too.
distinction.
Oh, no, they're two different
Are they?
forms, I think. Yeah.
Right, but a violation notice is more of a lesser offense, I think.
Yes. Yes. It's we don't like what you're doing, come talk to us. Like, come talk to us.
Right. Whereas an enforcement order basically says, stop what you're doing and do this instead, or don't do it at all.
Yeah, but I think we have the burden. It's like we have a legal burden to prove that they've violated something, whereas the violation notice is a little bit softer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, how does that affect what we're writing here?
It shouldn't much because it's a process under the Wetlands Protection Act. I think the only thing the bylaw could contemplate is, who can serve a notice, or who can serve like a violation notice or a yeah.
But I don't know
I
why,
mean,
when you have an agent, why it wouldn't be done. You could call Ethan and say, I saw this, could you issue a violation notice?
but if something's happening when staff isn't around, like it's
Right, but
happening on the weekend,
what would be so emergent that it would require a violation notice that minute rather than on Monday? I mean, I don't, like I said, as long as I've been with the commission, there hasn't been an instance that there's something that, if it's something so egregious, it would go to the DEP emergency response team, if it's something that bad.
But yeah, well, they're not gonna, would they come out if
Yes, yeah,
somebody started cutting trees, right next to a wetland?
they could, but once the trees are cut, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just getting too far from what, it's just getting too regulatory to me.
Well, I mean, DEP also wouldn't come out for a bylaw issue like a vernal pool habitat. I mean, I definitely agree there needs to be checks on it because we don't, want this to be happening like all the time. But I mean, I'm also concerned about like the change to the conservation agent structure without talking with the commission ahead of time. I mean, I know the conservation agent can't work overtime. They can't authorize their own overtime. And I mean, I think we've worried
That
about.
was never the case. They were never allowed to do that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, understandably. I mean, that's standard. But let's say they did their 30 hours, for the week. Um, then I mean, and something comes up, they really can't do it. But also, I mean, I think we've worried about, the reporting structure and would that lead to certain enforcement orders not being
I think I don't know how that keeps coming up. And I personally find it insulting to Erin as the supervisor. I don't know what instance would ever cause anyone in the town, any town employee to say, no, ignore this because we don't want it to happen. I mean, a, to me, that's an offensive statement to make.
well, I certainly don't mean that
Doesn't mean
personally
it's for
about
employee.
Aaron. Yeah, no, I understand that.
Who gets-
And I
who
don't
gets
mean
plenty
that
of-
in any personal way about Aaron, but I mean there was really a lack of discussion before that happened, which doesn't inspire, kind of a mutual trust.
Well, I think Erin is getting the blame for that, and she isn't the one that should be. I mean, I disagree with that. I mean, the commission the agent has always been overseen by the town administrator. That's always been who the agent has reported to. That's always been the structure of town hall. Whether that was a parent, whether that was relayed, that's always been the structure.
Right.
Well, so Judy, I think what I hear you saying is that you feel confident that any enforcement order that the commission follows the procedure for would be issued.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why there would be any
Yeah.
thought that anyone would try to subvert an enforcement order.
Okay. I mean, that's reassuring to me.
And if the chair said go and, talk to this, like, I don't like what's going on, can you go talk to them? That nobody, that would happen, that,
I don't,
whether or not there is an issue or not, if the chair said go talk to the applicant, I don't understand what they're doing. This doesn't look right.
right. I
Ethan
mean, there'd have to
would
be a
go.
reason. There'd have to be a reason to go out, obviously. But I mean, if Paul called Ethan and said, hey, can you go out and talk to them? I don't see a reason why he wouldn't.
I just found the language in the DEP regs, 310 CMR, which basically says that an enforcement order in a situation requiring immediate action, an enforcement order may be signed by a single member or agent of the commission if said order is ratified at the next scheduled meeting.
Mhm.
So basically the same language as we have in our drafting right now.
Mhm.
But is signed by and issued by the same thing? Is it saying that a single commissioner can issue one on their own?
Yes, that's essentially what it means.
That's what I had
And
understood.
it says an enforcement order issued by a conservation commission shall be signed by a majority of the commission in a situation requiring immediate action. This is DEP 310 CMR 10.09, paren 3. 10.09, yeah, enforcement orders. In a situation requiring immediate action, an enforcement order may be signed by a single member or agent of the commission if said order is ratified by a majority of the members at the next scheduled meeting of the commission. So essentially, the language that we stole from Sudbury or wherever is identical to what's in the state code.
You could say something like consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act, blah, 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 Wetlands Protection Act regulations, da, 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 da.
Or we can simply leave the language as we have it there.
Yeah. But it's not like we're giving ourselves new authority.
No.
Yeah.
There's nothing new here. The only difference is that we're applying it to our bylaw, which is different. Remember, because to date, there hasn't been a bylaw. So this allows us as a commission to enforce our bylaw in the same way as we could enforce the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what I'd propose we take back, think about, and decide whether how we're going forward with it.
Yeah.
I will clean this up at least to issue you guys a black line, a red line like this, and a clean version before I go away. Since I've been the keeper of text tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to complete tonight?
I did have something to clarify about, this is the perfect place on the document. Right there, no,
Which
Lakes
is
Ponds, yeah, Lakes
Lakes
Ponds
Ponds Bank?
Bank,
Okay.
yeah. Definitions, it starts out saying, well, it says, the definitions of terms, procedures, and performance standards in these regulations shall be set forth in the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations. But the Wetlands Protection Act performance standards, I mean, there are performance standards for bank, but the performance standards for lakes and ponds fall under other, headings. And is this clear enough?
I've seen some bylaws where they literally lay out, sorry, regulations. I keep saying bylaws. Uh, you know, 310 CMR 10.4 for bank or 10 dot whatever for ponds. That type of thing. So we could make it more specific if we wanted.
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. Jennifer, are you suggesting that
Well,
Lakes
I
Ponds
guess
Bank are not defined in WPA?
I'm just trying to kind of wrap my head around it. No, they are, but like bank has its own performance standards, but a lake or pond, those performance standards might be found under bank, or they might be found under
Land underwater bodies.
land underwater bodies, or they might be found under even BBW. I don't know. I just found that a little confusing, but maybe there's nothing really to change about it.
Well, the language here we are protecting lakes, ponds, and banks, right?
Yeah. It's probably fine. It's just taking me a minute to kind of wrap my head around that. Like for this section, where would where would you go find but I mean, in reality, I think applicants are going to start with the WPA and then come to this.
Mhm.
It's probably not really that important.
And I think to Judy's point, the average homeowner probably won't be. They would just call the agent.
Right, well, they're not gonna read the rules.
Yeah.
Just purpose, jurisdiction, performance. And we basically say that same thing for every one of these sections, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Lakes, ponds, banks, land under water bodies and waterways, BVW, isolated wetlands, intermittent streams, vernal pool habitat, riverfront area. Okay, so I think we pick it all up. We're basically consistently using that same language around the definition, with the exception of the two that we're taking particular steps to protect, which is intermittent streams and vernal pool habitat.
Mhm.
And isolated wetlands, because we're stepping beyond the definitions under the WPA in those cases. I guess I suggest I'll clean them up, I'll send them out, and you'll have 4 weeks or so or more until our next meeting to consider them, and then we'll pick them up then.
I I think it might make sense to kind of share a draft with Bill and just have him
We can do that.
look at it and maybe, while you're gone, Paul, like Jennifer, you seem to have a good handle on performance standards. Maybe it could be you and Ethan and Bill kind of meeting and looking, kind of getting Bill's comments and his reaction, and if he um, wants to suggest any changes.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Okay. Since we're not meeting again until mid-February, I mean, we are starting to come around to up on the next town meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have to move rather quickly once we get back. I mean, I think that's an argument for taking it up with Bill while in my absence, Jennifer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think having him look at the bylaw and this, um, and suggesting any changes or things he wants to see. Yeah, I think that would be really good.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Right. And then I think in the February meeting, we might set the more public information sessions.
Yeah. I think, yeah, looking at our presentations and trying to get to that holy grail of a 10-page sort of deck that could explain it and take it to town meeting.
And I think the town meeting is usually late April, early May.
Yeah, and I think I've heard they're gonna open up the warrant, like ask for warrants soon. Like it'll probably, I don't know, Judy, do you know the timing? I mean, it could be as soon as February.
The town council sets the open and close dates of the warrant, and they haven't done that yet. They probably won't do it for, I don't know, maybe their February meeting. Discuss it.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
clean these up, get them off to all on this call, and get a copy off to Bill Renault and tell him that Jennifer will be following up with him in my absence.
Yeah.
Okay,
I agree with that.
all right. Thanks, everybody,
Thank you. Thanks,
for all
Judy.
the
Thanks,
effort
Ethan.
tonight. And I guess I'll see you in February.
For the time, Paul.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I hope to.
Yeah. Have a wonderful trip.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, I guess we should take a vote on adjourning.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh.
yes.
Let's get back. We need a motion to adjourn first, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
All in favor? Jennifer,
Yes.
Eleanor,
Yes.
and I vote in favor. Thanks. We are adjourned. See you in February.